In the cold evening breeze, under a broken wooden shed near a big shopping mall, sat a tired young woman named Amaka. Her clothes were old and torn, her hair rough, and her feet bare. In her arms was her little daughter, Nina, just 3 years old. Nina was shivering, hungry, and weak. She hadn't eaten since morning. "Mama, my stomach is making noise," Nina said softly, holding her belly. Amaka's eyes filled with tears. "I know, my baby. Mama is trying, okay." She kissed her forehead and hugged her tight. But deep inside her heart, she felt pain. Pain of not being able to feed her child. Pain of being poor and forgotten. Once upon a time, Amaka had a good life. She was married, working, and living in a small rented house. But her husband died by gunshot, and everything changed. She lost her job, her home, and friends turned their backs on her. Now, she begged on the street for food and slept under the shed with Nina. That night, as she walked around with Nina tied on her back, she passed the big shopping mall again. The lights were bright, the cars were fine, and the smell of fried chicken from the food court made her daughter's stomach cry louder. She stopped beside a black Jeep parked near the gate. A young rich man in a suit stepped down. His name was Mr. Raymond, a well-known billionaire who owned the mall. He went inside with his bodyguards, laughing and carrying bags. Amaka walked closer to the Jeep. She wasn't thinking straight. Her eyes went to the shopping bag on the car seat. It was half open, and inside, she saw a pack of meat pie, water, biscuits, and drinks. Food, real food. She looked left. She looked right. Nobody was watching. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was beating fast, but her daughter's weak cry echoed in her ears. "Mama, I'm hungry." She quickly opened the car door, grabbed the food, and ran behind them all. There, under a tree, she fed Nina, who smiled happily and said, "Thank you, Mama. You are the best." Amaka cried silently as she watched her baby eat. But what Amaka didn't know was that one of the mall's CCTV cameras caught her. The next morning, 2 security men came looking for her. People who knew her told them where she usually stayed. She was still sitting under the shed, hugging Nina when they came. "You, come with us," one of them shouted. Amaka stood up slowly. "Please. I'm sorry. I just needed to feed my child," she begged, crying. They dragged her to Mr. Raymond's office. The rich man was seated in his big chair, watching the video of her stealing. "You stole from me," he said. "Yes, sir," Amaka said with tears. "But I didn't do it for myself. My baby was dying of hunger. I didn't mean to steal. I just didn't want her to die." Raymond looked at her closely. She was shaking, crying, and holding her sleeping child. "Where's your husband?" he asked. "He's dead, sir." "Where do you live?" "Under the bridge, sir." For the first time in a long while, Mr. Raymond went silent. He remembered his own mother, who once begged for food before his father made it in life. He looked at the child's tiny shoes, broken and patched. He saw the scars of suffering on Amaka's hands. Mr. Raymond leaned back in his big chair. The room was quiet. The security guards stood still, waiting for his command. Amaka stood on her feet, weak and trembling, with little Nina still asleep in her arms. Tears rolled down Amaka's cheeks as she whispered, "Please, sir. I'm not a thief. I was just trying to save my child." Mr. Raymond didn't say anything. He kept staring at her. Something inside his chest felt heavy. He saw pain in her eyes, real pain. The kind of pain you don't fake. The kind of pain his own mother once carried before his father became rich. He slowly stood up from his chair and walked toward her. "Sit down," he said softly. Amaka was confused. She looked around. "So, you want me to sit?" "Yes." "Sit down," he said again. She sat gently on the visitor's chair, holding Nina close to her chest like a fragile egg. Mr. Raymond bent down and touched Nina's cheek. "She has fever," he said. Amaka nodded, wiping her daughter's sweat with the back of her hand. "She cried all night. I gave her rainwater to drink." Mr. Raymond's eyes turned red. He looked at the guards. "Get my driver. Tell him to start the car." "So," one of the guards asked in shock. "You heard me," he shouted. The guards rushed out quickly. Amaka looked up, confused. "Sir, please, don't take me to the police," I will do anything. I can clean. I can wash plates. I can. Mr. Raymond raised his hand to stop her. You're not going to the police. She looked even more confused now. Where are we going then? She asked slowly. He looked into her eyes and said gently, to the hospital. Amaka gasped. Before she could say a word, the driver entered and announced that the car was ready. Let's go, Raymond said. He carried Nina gently from her arms and helped Amaka to stand. For the first time in years, someone touched her with care. Her legs shook as she walked beside him. She felt like she was dreaming. Inside the Jeep, Amaka sat quietly, holding her breath. Mr. Raymond wrapped Nina in his suit jacket and placed her head on his lap. He looked at Amaka. What's her name? He asked. Nina, she replied, her voice shaking. She's beautiful. Amaka smiled faintly. Thank you, sir. As they drove to the hospital, Amaka looked through the car window. For years, she had only seen hospitals from afar. She never believed one day she would sit in a billionaire's car, heading there. At the hospital, doctors rushed to attend to them once they saw Mr. Raymond. He ordered a private room and told them to do everything to make Nina feel better. While Nina was being treated, Amaka sat on the hospital chair, her hands on her chest, her eyes red. Mr. Raymond walked in quietly and sat beside her. You don't have to cry anymore, he said. She looked at him and sobbed. Why are you helping me, sir? I stole from you. He smiled gently. Because I saw myself in you. She didn't understand. I grew up poor too. My father was a bus driver. We didn't have food. Sometimes we ate once a day. My mother begged on the street while carrying me on her back. Just like you. Amaka's eyes widened. I watched my mother cry many nights, he continued, and I promised myself that one day I would help women like her. And that day is today. Amaka broke down in tears again. But this time, not from pain, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The doctor came out of the room. Sir, she's stable now, but very weak. She needs rest, food, and medicine. Give her everything she needs, Raymond said, and make sure her mother is taken care of too. Amaka held her chest again. Sir, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to, he said. Just promise me one thing. She looked at him with wet eyes. Anything, sir. Promise me you will never steal again, no matter how hard life becomes. I promise, she said quickly. I swear on my life, I will never steal again. He nodded. You and your daughter are safe now. The next morning, the sun rose gently over the hospital window, pouring its golden light into the quiet room. Little Nina was still fast asleep, her small hand wrapped around her mother's finger. Amaka sat by her bedside, staring at her daughter's peaceful face. For the first time in a long time, Nina wasn't crying. She wasn't coughing. She wasn't shivering. She was resting, like every child deserves to. Tears slowly rolled down Amaka's cheeks, but this time, they were tears of relief. There was a knock at the door. Amaka quickly wiped her face and stood up. It was Mr. Raymond, dressed in a clean white shirt and trousers, holding a small food tray. I brought breakfast, he said with a smile. Amaka blinked fast, not used to such kindness. For me? She asked. Yes. You and Nina, he said, walking in. There's hot pap and bread for her, and rice for you. Amaka bowed her head. Thank you, sir. I don't know how to repay you. Raymond sat down beside the bed and looked at Nina. You don't have to repay me. Seeing her alive is enough. Just then, Nina's tiny eyes fluttered open. She blinked at the ceiling, then turned her head slowly toward her mother. Mama, she whispered. Amaka rushed to her. Yes, baby. Mama is here. Mama is here. Nina gave a weak smile, then looked at Raymond. Is that the uncle with the soft lap? Raymond chuckled. Yes, sweetheart. That's me. Nina nodded slowly. You smell like apples. They all laughed gently, and the room filled with warmth. That afternoon, Amaka stepped outside the hospital building for some fresh air while Nina slept. She sat alone on a bench, watching cars pass by, wondering if this kindness would last or if it was just for a moment. Raymond soon joined her, holding 2 bottles of cold water. He gave her one. "Where is your family?" he asked gently. Amaka looked down. "Dead or lost, sir. My parents died of sickness long ago. My only brother disappeared when our house was destroyed in a fire. And my husband, he was the last person I had." "How did he die?" Raymond asked, softly. Amaka took a deep breath. "He was a keek driver. One night, he was coming home when armed robbers stopped him. They shot him. He didn't even fight back, sir. He gave them the money, and they still shot him in the chest. He died on the road, and my life ended that day too." Raymond said nothing. He just sat there, listening. "I begged his family to help me," she continued, "but they threw me out. They said I was cursed, that I brought bad luck to their son. Since then, I've been on the street with Nina." She turned to him. "I didn't want to steal, sir. But when I saw that food in your car, something inside me broke. I felt like God left me, like he was watching me suffer." Raymond sighed deeply. "Maybe God didn't leave. Maybe he sent you to the right car." She looked at him with wet eyes, speechless. That evening, Raymond made a decision. One he had never made for anyone before. He called his personal assistant, Mr. Henry, and said, "Find a small apartment in town. Clean and safe. I want her and her daughter to move in as soon as Nina is discharged." "So?" Henry was shocked. "You heard me. Get it done." Raymond then turned to Amaka. "You won't go back to the street. You'll have a roof over your head, food in your kitchen, and a warm bed for your child." Amaka gasped. Her hand flew to her chest. "So, are you serious?" "I don't joke with people's lives," he said with a calm smile. She fell on her knees immediately. "God bless you, sir. God bless your children, your future wife, your generations." He helped her up quickly. "No need for that. Just stay strong. Take care of Nina." But deep down, Amaka didn't know that Raymond's kindness was not just from a good heart. There was something about her that touched a hidden part of him. Something he couldn't explain. A quiet voice that kept whispering, "This woman is different. She reminds me of my late mother." Later that night, as Raymond sat alone in his mansion, sipping tea, he stared at his late mother's picture on the wall and whispered, "Maybe this is what you would have wanted me to do, Mama." But in the dark corner of the hospital that same night, someone was watching Amaka closely. A woman in a black scarf. Her name was Madame Gloria, and she knew Raymond very well. She picked up her phone and made a call. "Hello? There's a woman with him. A poor woman. With a child. She's living in the hospital right now." The voice on the other end said, "Keep watching. Let's see how far this girl wants to go." 2 days later, the hospital discharged little Nina. She was stronger now. Her cheeks had color again, her smile had returned, and her eyes were full of light. Amaka dressed her in a small yellow gown Mr. Raymond bought from the hospital shop. She also wore new slippers. For the first time in her life, Nina looked like every other normal child. As they stepped out of the hospital building, a shiny black car was waiting for them. Mr. Henry, Raymond's assistant, stood beside it with a small file in his hand. "Madam Amaka," he said politely. Amaka nodded shyly, holding Nina's hand. "I'm here to take you to your new apartment. These are your house keys and papers." Amaka gasped. "You mean, the house is ready?" she asked with wide eyes. "Yes, Ma. Sir Raymond gave us strict orders to make sure everything was perfect." Amaka carried Nina and hugged her tight. "You see, baby, God didn't forget us." The drive to the new house felt like a dream. Nina looked out the window, pointing at everything she saw, cars, shops, people, while Amaka sat in silence, her eyes full of tears. They reached a quiet compound with 3 painted flats. Mr. Henry opened the door to a small 2-bedroom apartment with a sitting room, kitchen, bathroom, and neat tiled floors. There were new curtains, a gas cooker, mattresses, and even a small TV. Amaka dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. "This is too much, so. I don't deserve this." "You deserve even more," Mr. Henry said with a smile. "Sir Raymond said you and your daughter are not beggars anymore. He said to tell you this is just the beginning." That night, Amaka lay on a real bed beside her daughter. She stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Not because she was afraid, but because her heart was full. Full of peace. Full of gratitude. She held Nina close and whispered, "One day, baby, we'll help people too. Just like this man helped us." But unknown to Amaka, something dark was already cooking in the shadows. In a tall building in the city, Madame Gloria sat across a table from Mrs. Trisha, Raymond's ex-fiancée. Trisha wore heavy makeup and expensive jewelry. She sipped wine slowly and frowned. "She looks poor," Trisha said. "She is poor," Madame Gloria replied. "Homeless before Raymond picked her up. And he's giving her everything." Trisha asked. "Yes. A house, clothes, even school plans for her daughter." Trisha slammed the wine glass on the table. It broke into pieces, and red wine splashed everywhere like blood. She stood up, breathing heavily, her eyes fixed on Madame Glory. "Never," she shouted. "Raymond is mine, Madame Glory. I was with him when he had nothing, no car, no money, no hope. I stayed when he couldn't even feed himself. I suffered with him before his father became rich." She pointed angrily. "And now that he has money, you think I'll just walk away and watch another woman enjoy what I fought for? No way." Her voice dropped, but it was cold and firm. "If I can't have him, Madame Glory, then no one else will." "What do you want us to do?" Gloria asked calmly. Trisha's eyes turned cold. "We'll make her return to the street. I don't care how poor she is. She doesn't belong in his life." Meanwhile, back at Amaka's house, early the next morning, she woke up to a soft knock on the door. She opened it and saw Raymond standing there, holding a small lunch bag. "So," she said, surprised. "I hope I'm not disturbing," he smiled. "No, sir. Not at all. Please come in." He entered. Nina rushed to hug his leg. "Uncle Apple," she giggled. Raymond laughed. "You still remember my smell?" "Yes. You smell like apples and sweet soap." They all laughed again. Raymond looked around the room. "You like the place?" Amaka nodded. "So, I don't even know what to say. Every time I wake up, I feel like I'm still dreaming." He sat down. "Then keep dreaming. Because this is your new reality." Amaka smiled but quickly looked down. "So, people will talk. They'll say I don't deserve this. That I'm using you." "Let them talk," he said calmly. "The same people who watched you suffer will now talk when someone lifts you. Forget them." He stood up and gave her the lunch bag. "Take this. I made some jollof rice and grilled chicken. You and Nina should eat together." Amaka held the bag close like it was gold. "God will bless you, sir. I will never forget this." Raymond smiled. "Just stay strong. Better days are ahead." But as he stepped outside, a young woman across the street, hidden behind a fence, snapped a photo of them on her phone. It was one of Trisha's spies. She quickly sent the picture and texted, "He's inside her house now." Far away from Amaka's peaceful little home, in a tall glass building with silver gates and a marble floor, Trisha sat on a soft white couch, her eyes glued to her phone screen. She zoomed in on the picture of Raymond standing outside Amaka's door, smiling warmly. His shirt was rolled at the sleeves. He looked free, happy, happier than she had ever seen him in all the years they were together. Trisha's heart burned with jealousy. She smashed the phone on the floor, breathing heavily. Her voice shook with anger. "She stole him from me. That street rat stole him from me." Her assistant, Tasha, ran in. "Ma, are you okay?" Trisha turned slowly. "Do I look okay to you? That dirty girl who had nothing is now living in a house Raymond paid for. My man is cooking jollof rice for her." "But Ma, Raymond left you months ago," Tasha said softly. "Because of her." Trisha screamed. "I gave him 8 years of my life. I was there when he had nothing. I cleaned his wounds when he was beaten. I stood by him. Even before his father became rich. And now, a homeless single mother took my place." She stormed into her room and came out with a black suitcase. "If I can't have Raymond, no one will," she hissed. "I will drag her in the mud. I'll make her suffer. She will beg to return to the street. She will watch her daughter cry with hunger again." Back at Amaka's new home, the day was just beginning. Birds chirped in the trees outside. The air smelled of fried akara and clean morning breeze. Amaka stood by the window, folding Nina's tiny clothes, smiling softly to herself. Nina danced around with her new doll. "Mama, I want to go to school." "Yes, my baby. You will go to school soon," Amaka said, kissing her cheek. Just then, her phone rang. It was a strange number. She picked it up carefully. "Hello." A cold voice replied, "Enjoy it while it lasts, Amaka." Her heart skipped. "Excuse me." "You heard me. Everything you have now, this house, this peace, that man, it's not yours. You're just playing in a place that's not your size. You will go back to the street. I promise you." Before she could speak, the line went dead. Her hand shook. Her breast became shallow. "Mama," Nina said. "What's wrong?" Amaka hugged her tightly. "Nothing, my love. Everything is okay." But everything was not okay. That same evening, Trisha launched her plan. She paid some bloggers and social media influencers to spread fake news. Billionaire Raymond caught with homeless thief turned girlfriend. Is this love or jazz? Another post read, "Homeless widow seduces Lagos billionaire with child. How far will desperation go?" They used edited photos of Amaka looking dirty, taken when she was still begging on the street. They made her look like a criminal. The blogs exploded with cruel comments. "Ew. Is this the kind of woman rich men fall for now? She probably tied him with charm. I pity the man." Amaka didn't even know what was happening until she stepped out to buy bread and heard two women whispering and pointing at her. That's her, the woman trending online. She used her child to trap a rich man. God forbid. By the time she got home, her phone had dozens of missed calls. People from her past, old neighbors, fake friends, messaged her. When Raymond arrived that evening, Amaka was sitting outside the house, crying. He rushed to her. "What happened?" She showed him the posts and broke down completely. "They are calling me names. They said I use charm. They said I'm a street thief." Raymond's face turned red with anger. He looked through the photos, the lies, the insults. Then he grabbed his phone and called his lawyer. "I want every single post taken down within the hour. Track every account. Sue all of them for defamation. And find out who paid them." Then he turned to Amaka, holding her face gently. "Look at me." She lifted her teary eyes. "You are not what they say. You are a strong woman, a mother, a survivor. Don't let lies make you forget who you are." She nodded slowly, shaking with emotion. "Even if the world turns against you," Raymond said firmly, "I will stand beside you." But as he spoke those words, Trisha watched the video on her laptop. A reporter had captured Raymond defending Amaka publicly. Her lips curled in rage. "So you want to protect her? Good. Let's see how well you can protect her from me." It was a cool, quiet night. The moon hung softly in the sky, shining its silver light over Amaka's small compound. Inside the house, the lights were off. Only the glow from the tiny bedside lamp lit the room. Nina was already asleep, her little arms wrapped around her new teddy bear. But Amaka couldn't sleep. She lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, her chest rising and falling with worry. The fake news online was still haunting her. Even after Raymond's lawyer took down most of the blogs, the whispers hadn't stopped. People still looked at her with judging eyes. Some neighbors had stopped greeting her. But Raymond's words stayed in her heart. "Even if the world turns against you, I will stand beside you." She closed her eyes and whispered a silent prayer. "God, please keep me and my daughter safe." But as the night deepened, danger was already close. A black van rolled slowly down the street, its headlights off. Inside, 4 men dressed in black sat with cold eyes and hard faces. In front of them was a picture, Amaka's picture. One of them held a phone to his ear. "Madam, we're outside the house." Trisha's voice came through the speaker. "Good. Make it clean. No noise. No mistakes. Take her far away. I want her to beg for water. I want her to feel what suffering really is." "Yes, Ma." They stepped out quietly and crept toward the back of the house. Amaka didn't hear them. She was still on the bed, slowly drifting into a troubled sleep when the first window slid open. A hand reached in, then another, and suddenly, the door burst open. Amaka screamed. Before she could grab Nina, two strong hands pinned her down. A cloth was shoved into her mouth. She kicked and fought, but they held her tight. "Mama!" Nina screamed, but another man grabbed her and pushed her into a corner. "Be quiet, small girl." Tears ran down Amaka's face as they tied her hands and dragged her out of the house like a sack. She looked back, her eyes wide with fear. "Don't hurt my child. Please. Take me, but don't hurt her." "We're not here for the child," one of them muttered. Nina ran after them, crying, "Mummy, Mummy." But the van door slammed shut, and the tires screeched as they disappeared into the dark. Hours passed. Nina sat outside the house in her nightgown, barefoot and crying loudly. Her voice echoed through the compound, waking up the neighbors. "Mama is gone. Somebody help me." People rushed out with torchlights. "What happened?" She was shouting. "What did she say?" Raymond's driver, who lived 2 houses away, heard the noise and ran over. "What happened, Nina?" he asked, kneeling beside her. "They took my mummy, 4 bad men. They took her in a black van." His heart dropped. He quickly called Raymond. Raymond was in his bedroom when his phone rang. He picked it up, still half asleep. "Hello." "Sir, Amaka has been kidnapped." Raymond jumped up. "What?" "They came in a van. 4 men. Neighbors heard Nina crying. She saw everything." Raymond didn't wait. He threw on his clothes, grabbed his car keys, and rushed out into the night. Meanwhile, inside a dark, dusty warehouse at the edge of the city, Amaka sat on the floor with ropes around her hands and legs. Her lips were bruised. Her hair was scattered. She was shaking. One of the men poured cold water on her face. "Wake up," he growled. Amaka opened her swollen eyes slowly. "Please," she whispered. "I have done nothing wrong." "You took what doesn't belong to you," another man said. "What did I take?" she cried. "I didn't steal anything." "Raymond," the leader shouted. "You stole Raymond." Amaka's heart skipped. "I didn't steal anyone," she cried. "He helped me when I was on the street. I didn't force him. He chose to help me." "Shut up," one man yelled, slapping her hard across the face. She screamed. "Please. I beg you. I have a child. She's just a baby. Please don't kill me." But they didn't listen. They tied her tighter and locked the warehouse door. Alone in the dark, Amaka sobbed. "God, please, don't let me die here. Don't let Nina be alone." Her voice echoed in the cold emptiness. It was almost 3 a.m. The sky was dark, but the city of Lagos was not sleeping. Inside his SUV, Raymond sat at the back seat, holding little Nina tightly against his chest. Her cheeks were soaked in tears, her tiny body trembling from fear. "Mummy said I shouldn't open the door," Nina whimpered softly, but the men broke in. They took her away. Raymond held her closer, his jaw clenched, his face hard. His chest burned with guilt and fury. "Don't cry again, okay," he whispered. "I will bring your mummy back. I promise you I will find her." He looked up at his bodyguards. His voice came out sharp and angry. "Search every CCTV camera around this area. Call the police commissioner. Wake him up if you have to. Check every warehouse, every uncompleted building. I want her found tonight." The car moved with speed as they headed to the mansion of the only person he suspected, Trisha. In a high-class estate surrounded by flowers, marble statues, and golden gates, Trisha's house stood like a palace. All was quiet until Raymond's car screeched to a stop in front of her gate. The dogs began barking. The security guard stood up from his stool in shock. "Open the gate." Raymond barked. The frightened guard opened it quickly. Raymond stormed out of the car, still holding Nina, and marched straight to the front door. Boom, boom, boom. He knocked hard, angrily, almost breaking the door. Minutes later, a sleepy and confused Trisha came out in a silk robe, rubbing her eyes. "Raymond, what are you doing here by this time?" Before she could finish, he exploded. "Where is she?" Trisha blinked. "Excuse me." "Don't play dumb with me, Trisha." Where is Amaka? You had her kidnapped, didn't you? Trisha folded her arms slowly and raised a brow. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe your street girlfriend decided to go back to the gutter where you found her. Raymond stepped closer, eyes red, voice shaking. You're wicked, Trisha. What has that poor woman done to you? Trisha's face twisted with anger. What has she done to me? I should be the one asking you that. I suffered with you, Raymond. I slept on the floor with you when you had nothing. I gave you my heart, my years, and now you threw me away like garbage. And for what? For a beggar with torn clothes. Raymond shook his head, his voice calm but deadly. Yes, you were with me when I had nothing. But you were never kind. You were never good. Trisha, you treated my own mother like she was a slave in my house. She froze. You insulted her, ignored her. You locked her outside in the rain because she broke a glass cup. You called her useless old woman. My mother cried in that house every day because of you, until she gave up, until she died. Trisha looked away. Raymond took a step closer, eyes burning with grief. When God finally blessed my father and we became successful, how did you treat my workers? My driver's wife? My office cleaner? You mocked them. You talked down on anyone who wasn't rich. You were poison. But I kept quiet, because I thought you would change. His voice broke a little. But when my mother died, I opened my eyes. Trisha's voice cracked. Raymond, I loved you. No, he said firmly. You loved power. You loved control. You never loved me. He pointed at Nina, still crying in his arms. She's just a baby. Her mother did nothing to you. She only wanted to feed her child. But your wicked heart can't stand seeing another woman be happy. Trisha shouted, You promised to marry me. I never did. Raymond snapped. It was only in your head. There was silence. A long, heavy silence. Then Trisha stepped back and hissed, You'll regret this. Raymond turned and looked at her one last time. No, you will regret it. If anything happens to Amaka, I will bring this entire mansion down. He walked away, his heart pounding, his arms wrapped around Nina. Back inside her house, Trisha broke down in rage. She grabbed a vase and smashed it on the wall. Tasha ran in. Ma, are you okay? Trisha pointed at the broken door. He humiliated me in front of a child. A child. He called me wicked. Tasha kept quiet. Trisha's eyes turned red. Find out where they are keeping that girl. They've not sent me proof of life yet. Why? Why is it taking so long? Tasha swallowed hard. Maybe something went wrong. Trisha grabbed her arm tightly. If that girl escapes, I will bury everyone who failed me. Meanwhile, far away, in the cold warehouse, Amaka was losing strength. Her lips were dry, her face bruised, her voice had faded. She whispered weakly, God, please, I want to see my daughter again. The next morning, the sky was gray and heavy. Clouds hung low, threatening rain. It was the kind of morning that felt slow, heavy, like something big was about to happen. Inside her room, Trisha was pacing, barefoot, her phone glued to her ear. Her heart beat fast as the phone rang. Then a voice answered. Hello, madam. We still have her. She's tied up inside an empty warehouse. It's near the express road. She's weak. No food. No water. Trisha stopped and clenched her jaw. Good. Don't let her escape. I'll be there myself. I want to look into her eyes and watch her beg me to let her go. Yes, madam. She ended the call and grabbed her black handbag. She turned to Tasha, who was sitting nervously on the bed. Stay here. If anyone calls or shows up, say I traveled. I'll be back once I'm done with that. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Raymond was in his home office, standing by the window, his phone in hand. He was dressed in a black polo and jeans, but there was no peace in his face. He turned quickly as his lead bodyguard, Chris, walked in. Any news? Raymond asked. Chris nodded. She got a call this morning. Our tech traced it. The number came from somewhere near Express Road. Raymond's heart jumped. I knew it. She's going there. He turned fully to Chris. Follow her. Do not let her know you're watching. Any movement, anything she says or does, call me immediately. I want to know everything." Chris gave a firm nod. "Yes, sir." Raymond grabbed his car keys and said under his breath, "Hold on, Amaka. I'm coming." Back at Raymond's mansion, little Nina sat quietly at the dining table, dressed in a soft pink gown. Her hair had been braided by one of the maids, and she looked clean, fresh, but quiet. She held a piece of bread in her hand, but she wasn't eating. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Raymond's cook, Mama Dora, asked gently as she poured tea into her cup. "I miss my mummy," Nina said softly, her eyes filling with tears. "Why hasn't she come back yet?" Mama Dora knelt beside her and hugged her close. "Your mummy will come back soon, my angel." Uncle Raymond went to find her. He's very strong. Nobody can stop him. "Will she come back before night?" Nina asked, sniffling. "Yes, baby," Mama Dora said, wiping her tears. "Now eat a little, okay? So that when your mummy comes, you can tell her how brave you were." Nina nodded slowly and took a bite. But inside her small heart, a storm of fear was growing. Meanwhile, Trisha's black car sped through the road, her hands tight on the steering wheel. Her face was hard, focused. She turned off the express and drove into a narrow path full of bushes and broken buildings. She arrived at the warehouse and stepped out. The air smelled of dust and iron. The building looked abandoned, with one side already cracking. She walked in, her heels echoing, and there, in the corner, tired and weak, was Amaka. Amaka looked up slowly. Her face was swollen, her lips cracked. She couldn't move. Her hands were still tied behind her. Her clothes were dirty. She looked like a shadow of herself. Trisha crossed her arms and smiled coldly. "Look at you," she said, walking closer. "So this is the woman that stole everything from me." Amaka's voice was faint. "I didn't steal anything." Trisha knelt beside her. "You think you're special because a man helped you? He was mine. Mine. And you, a beggar, a nobody, walked in with your innocent tears and stole his heart." "I didn't plan it," Amaka whispered. "He was kind to me, and my daughter." "Enough." Trisha snapped. "I gave him my life. I stayed by his side when he was broke. And now he sees me as a monster, because of you." Amaka closed her eyes. "If hating me will give you peace, then hate me. But let me go. My daughter needs me." Trisha stood up. "She'll survive. Children forget." Amaka began to cry quietly. "You're a woman too. You know what it means to carry a child, to hold her in your arms, to hear her cry in hunger." Something in Trisha's eyes flickered, but only for a second. She turned to the men. "Make sure she doesn't leave this place. I'll come back later. I want her to feel what I felt, rejected, abandoned, forgotten." What she didn't know was that Chris, Raymond's guard, was watching from a safe distance, hiding behind a cracked wall outside. He was recording everything. As soon as Trisha walked out and entered her car, Chris picked up his phone. "Sir, it's confirmed. She's the one. She came to the warehouse. Amaka is inside. Still alive. Weak, but breathing." Raymond's voice came out sharp. "Stay there. I'm on my way. We finish this today." The air was tense. Raymond's car drove like a bullet through the dusty road, followed closely by two black SUVs filled with his armed security team. Inside, Raymond sat still, jaw clenched, his fists tight on his lap. His eyes were red with rage and worry. He kept hearing Amaka's weak voice in his head, "My daughter needs me." Minutes later, they arrived at the abandoned warehouse. Raymond didn't wait for the car to fully stop. He jumped out and stormed toward the building, his men surrounding the area like trained eagles. "Break the door," he shouted. With one heavy kick, the metal door flew open. The smell of dust, sweat, and hopelessness filled the air. And there she was, Amaka, lying on the cold floor, motionless, tied and broken. Her head leaned to the side, her lips barely moving. Raymond's heart shattered. "Amaka," he screamed and rushed to her. She blinked slowly. Her swollen eyes widened as she saw him. "Raymond." "I'm here," he whispered, dropping to his knees and cutting the ropes with his pocket knife. I'm here now. You're safe. She fell into his arms with what little strength she had left and gripped his shirt weakly. Raymond, my daughter. Nina, how is she? She asked in a cracked voice. Raymond held her tighter. She's very fine. She's with me. She's safe. She's strong. She's been asking for you every second. Amaka's lips quivered, and before she could say another word, her body went limp in his arms. Amaka, Amaka. Raymond shouted, tapping her cheek. Stay with me. He lifted her into his arms like a baby. Call the doctor now. Find the nearest hospital. Geo. The convoy sped off again, this time carrying the woman who had suffered so much for simply being loved. At Graceway Medical Center, nurses rushed Amaka into the emergency ward. Raymond stood outside the glass door, pacing, running his fingers through his hair over and over again. He had never felt so helpless. The door opened, and the doctors stepped out. She's stable, just dehydrated and very weak, emotionally drained. She'll need time to recover. Raymond breathed in deeply and nodded. Thank you. He walked into the ward slowly. Amaka was now resting on the bed, a drip connected to her hand. Her eyes fluttered open as she heard his footsteps. Raymond smiled, walked over, and sat beside her. I'm here, he said gently. Tears filled her eyes again. I thought I'd never see Nina again. You will, he said, holding her hand. She's waiting at home with Mama Dora. She's been counting the hours. Amaka cried softly. Raymond leaned closer and wiped her tears with his thumb. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Amaka. This happened because of me. If I didn't walk into your life, if I didn't show you kindness, maybe you wouldn't have suffered this much. Amaka shook her head weakly. Don't say that. You saved me. Raymond took her hand and placed it on his chest. From today, you'll never suffer again. I promise you. I will protect you. And I will protect Nina. You're not going back to that small apartment. She looked at him, confused. You and Nina will be living with me. In my mansion. Where you'll be safe. Where no one will ever touch you again. Her lips parted, but she was too shocked to speak. You deserve peace, Amaka, Raymond said. And I want to give it to you. Just then, his phone rang. It was Chris. Yes. Sir, it's done. We've arrested Tricia and the men. We caught them all. She tried to escape through the estate's back gate, but we cornered her. She's now in police custody. Raymond's eyes hardened. Make sure they don't walk free. Yes, sir. He ended the call and looked back at Amaka. She won't hurt you again. It's over. Amaka closed her eyes and whispered, thank you. That evening, a black car stopped in front of Raymond's mansion. Nina ran out the moment the door opened. Mommy. Amaka stepped down slowly with Raymond supporting her. She opened her arms and dropped to her knees as Nina jumped into her chest. I missed you. Nina cried. I missed you more, my baby. Mama Dora stood in the doorway, her eyes misty. The entire house stood still as Raymond guided Amaka and her daughter inside. The mansion, once cold and quiet, now had something it never had before. A family. The morning sun poured through the tall windows of Raymond's mansion, warming the marble floors and golden curtains. But what truly filled the house was not the sunlight, it was laughter. Amaka and little Nina sat together on the living room couch. Nina held a storybook in her hand, her tiny fingers tracing the pictures as she read aloud in her soft voice. Raymond stood by the doorway, watching them with a smile. So much had changed. It all started with a woman begging on the street, stealing food, not for herself, but for the child in her arms. Raymond walked over and sat beside Amaka. She smiled up at him. Can you believe it, she asked, that we're here now? Raymond shook his head slowly. No, and yes. Because from the moment I saw you, something inside me remembered. He looked deeply into her eyes. I never told you this, he said gently. But the first day I saw you stealing food, holding your child close, crying and begging me to forgive you, I saw someone else. Who? Amaka asked. My mother, Raymond whispered. She once begged like you. She once cried like you. She once carried me on her back, knocking on doors, asking for help. and the world turned her away. Tears filled Amaka's eyes. I promised myself that if I ever made it in life, I'd never turn away from someone like her. I failed her once, but I refused to fail you. Amaka leaned forward and kissed his hand. You didn't fail her, she said. She would be proud of you. I'm proud of you. He gently pulled her into his arms. And I'm proud of you too. Months passed. Trisha and the kidnappers were sentenced in court. The judge called her act wicked and shameful. The footage Raymond's guards recorded sealed her fate. She was taken away, handcuffed and silent, her eyes full of bitterness, while Amaka stood in the crowd with Nina in her arms and Raymond beside her. Peace had won. Amaka fully recovered. Her story spread across the country, not as a woman who stole, but as a mother who rose. A woman who had nothing but chose love, strength, and forgiveness. But Amaka didn't want the story to end with her. With Raymond's support, she opened a foundation. She called it Mama Please Don't Cry Foundation. Because she knew how it felt to cry alone. And now, she knew what it meant to rise again. The aim was simple: to help the forgotten, to give shelter to homeless mothers, to feed hungry children, to give hope to women who felt invisible. On the day of the foundation's launch, Amaka stood on a stage, dressed in a simple blue gown, holding a microphone. Her daughter Nina sat in the front row beside Raymond. The hall was filled with guests, from governors to celebrities, all standing to listen. Amaka spoke with a soft voice, but every word hit like a drum in every heart. I was once forgotten, once homeless. I stole food to feed my daughter. I was dragged in the mud. But one man looked at me, and instead of judging me, he gave me his hand. She turned toward Raymond. Thank you for seeing me, for believing in me, for not turning away. The audience clapped, many with tears in their eyes. I stand here today, she continued, not as a victim, but as a voice. A voice for every woman sleeping under a bridge, for every child crying for food, for every soul that has been called worthless. You are not worthless. More applause. Nina ran up and hugged her mother on stage. Everyone stood. A standing ovation filled the hall. That night, back at home, Raymond and Amaka stood outside, under the stars. He held her hand. Are you happy? He asked. She nodded slowly. More than I've ever been. He smiled. Then let's make it forever. Raymond went down on one knee and brought out a small, shining ring. Will you marry me, Amaka? Amaka gasped. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, yes. Little Nina, watching from the window, squealed and shouted, yay. Mummy and Uncle Apple are getting married. And in the house that was once quiet, laughter echoed. Love lived. A new story had begun. From that day forward, Amaka was no longer the homeless woman. She became Amaka Raymond, a beloved wife, a mother, and a living testimony that no pain is too deep for healing, and no one is too poor for love. And as for little Nina, she grew up telling the story to everyone she met. My mummy was taken away, but Uncle Raymond became my hero. He brought her back. And now, we'll live happily ever after. The end.